Championship Saturday right here on Bookmakers Review. This is the NCAA football show. I'm Donnie Wright, along with Kyle Provines and Christopher Giannini. We are here to break it all down today because a lot of things are going to get settled. But before things get settled, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching out there on Twitter, hit that subscribe button, turn your notification bells on, because every time we go live and talk NCAA football, you'll be able to come in here in the chat box on YouTube and say hello. If you're following along here through our Twitter page at BMR Reviews, give us a follow, a like, a comment. And now it's time to get it on here. Welcome in. It's Saturday morning. Kyle, are you ready for Championship Saturday?
Absolutely. It's been, we're in the holiday season. I got the Christmas tree up this week. I got decorations up. I'm swaying through the peaks and valleys of love. So I'm having a nice week here. It's early. It's cold. I'm really glad Chris is here too, to get the real expert analysis too on all these games. So I'm excited to be here and looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be a fun one here, Chris. Welcome into the show today, breaking down the biggest day possibly in college football this year, because we are going to get determinations of who is making it into the college football playoff. Chris, welcome in here.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here and hang out with you guys and talk a little college football.
Yeah, let's have some fun here. Going over the next half hour, we are going to bring everything to you. Some picks, some plays, what we expect is going to happen, and also maybe tomorrow at, I believe, noon, we are going to know exactly who the Final Four is here in the college football playoffs. So speaking of that, Chris, I'm going to come to you first here. We're taking a look here on Championship Saturday. If we look at the college football rankings as they stand right now before the games are played, Georgia 1, Michigan 2, Alabama 3, Cincinnati 4, Oklahoma State 5, Notre Dame 6. And the reason why we stop at 6 because the teams with 2 losses, probably unless pure ridiculous chaos happens today, they're not going to be involved in the playoff, and rightfully so. So if we're looking today, is it just so simple to look at this and say, Georgia wins or loses, they're in. Michigan wins, they are in. Alabama wins, they are in. Cincinnati wins, they are in. And maybe some scenarios, Chris, that you're looking at here to say, hey, if some crazy things happen, maybe Notre Dame does get in without Brian Kelly. What are you thinking here today?
So one thing you said I don't think is right. I think if Bama beats Georgia, Georgia and Bama are both in. That's
correct.
Undisputed, undeniable, not going to change. Michigan wins, they're in. If Oklahoma State wins and Cincinnati wins, I'm telling you, the committee will jump Cincinnati. They have treated them like the stepchild this entire season. They've done it through history. They're not changing. They're not bending on this. This is a group of individuals that have been bought by the P5, the Power 5, and they know where their bread is buttered, and they are going to put Oklahoma State in over Cincinnati if everybody wins and Alabama wins.
It's wild that you think of it, Kyle, because we've been talking about this scenario, particularly last week as well. Like, there's some things, and I'm going to keep saying this because November 7th, I placed a ticket here on Cincinnati to get into the college football playoff at plus 350. Then, as you know, I hedged it out here with Houston today on the money line because I'm under the ilk that if they win this football game, they are going to get in. But I've always said this, Kyle, I will sacrifice my ticket today if Cincinnati wins, let's just say 27-26 over Houston, and they get passed by. So that would mean they are out, and then immediately you're going to have like class action lawsuits flying left and right saying, it's always been rigged. We never had a chance to get in. How are we the number 4 team in the playoff rankings, beat a ranked opponent, and somehow we drop out to a 1-loss team? So what are we thinking today, and if that's a possibility? Because I don't think it is. Chris thinks it's a possibility. But just the chaos alone, right, that we'd be waiting tomorrow to see who's actually in the top 4.
Well, I mean, of course, it's a possibility. We've seen this play out before, right? And look, half of me is like, look, can we just be fair? Cincinnati's top 10 offense and defense. They beat Notre Dame, their biggest test this year. They beat them by nearly double digits. They dominated them in that game. It's only fair that they get it. The other half of me is like, let's have some anarchy. Let's piss some people off. I want to hear the screaming and the crying. I want to see people I'm not particularly fond of Ohio anyway, so I'm actually kind of happy if they're all pissed off, whining and crying. Look, I think Cincinnati would get in if they win today. It's not as though Houston is some unranked slop of a team. If they come out there and look convincing, they should get in. But I mean, I'm not going to rest on those laurels and just assume it's going to happen. We've seen it before. Of course, they would love a team like Oklahoma State to be in there, especially with that defense. A Georgia-Oklahoma State game would be, a fascinating defensive matchup. Really, Alabama just needs to lose for one important reason. We talked about it before the show. Alabama needs to be ranked 7, 8, 9 after these rankings. So the committee goes, listen, Nick Saban's not in the playoff. If we had an 18 playoff, they'd be in this year. Let's get this thing fixed. And I think that's the only way it does get fixed is if a team that the committee's in love with can't make it. That's when things start to change in college football and we get that expanded playoff that we want.
Yeah, Alabama has to win today. I mean, I don't even want to hear the nonsense of like, oh, they lost in the last second field goal to Georgia. No, your 2 losses, you didn't even win your conference. And also, let's keep in mind, this isn't a team in Alabama, Chris, that went through the entire. I mean, you saw the games. LSU, massive favorite, barely beat them. Florida on the road, outside of that great first quarter that they had, they almost lost that game to a very average Florida team. You also saw last week, they didn't score a point, Chris, last week in the Iron Bowl against backups in Brian Harson's squad, where they somehow pulled out a miracle here. This isn't teams like, oh, no, you got to put Alabama in. You know, they rolled everybody just because they had one bad game against Auburn, Chris. This has been the entire season where we're looking for the upside on Alabama weekly, it seems like.
Yeah, I've said this, and we'll get more into this when we get into the Heisman talk. This Alabama team is not Alabama teams of norms. Now, I have made a living of crapping on this team. I don't like them. But biases aside, it's the truth. They're not very good at football. They are getting lucky. The worst LSU, you just brought up the 3 games that I would bring up. The worst LSU and Florida team in 20 years. Yeah. And it took everything they had, plus a whole lot of help from the Stripes because they are the brand and they get protection to beat the 2 worst teams that we've seen in a long time. LSU is DFL in the SEC West. And it took everything they had to beat that team, plus 6-6 Auburn at the Iron Bowl. And people say, oh, but it's always a close game. It's always, no. Nobody else gets that pass. Nobody else gets it, all right? You get treated like you're the big boy, you should be the big boy. If you're not going to be the big boy, then get treated like everybody else. We criticized Cincinnati for their close losses against unranked teams all year. Or close wins, I apologize.
Right.
But we're not criticizing Bama for their close wins because LSU and Florida have big brands. No, sir. No, sir. That's not the way this is supposed to happen. Everybody should be judged the exact same. They're nowhere near close to the second best team in the country. I think when we're done today, people are going to give them a pass because Georgia's killed everybody. When Georgia kills them, we're all just going to roll our eyes and say, well, they had to play Georgia and Cincinnati got to play Houston. It doesn't matter.
No, sir, I don't think it does either because and it's set up particularly correct here when you try to look at getting in the playoff. It's always under like the Power 5 teams, they have to go unbeaten to have a chance here. When you play in the SEC, obviously it's the best conference in the land. So they give you that one loss out, right? You can't now say, okay, you gave us the 1, but you got to give us the 2 now because we're still in the SEC. That doesn't count. So nobody would ever argue if Alabama and Georgia came into this game, Chris, unbeaten on both sides, and whoever won, I don't even care if Georgia won 37-0 today, Alabama would still be in the college football playoffs. Hey, what did you want them to do?
That's right.
They went unbeaten, they had to play an extra game, and here we go. So let's swing it over here, Chris. I'll stay with you also. The Heisman race, one of the more fascinating races I've seen in the last 25 years. Usually today, as we're talking on December 4th, Championship Saturday, it's basically wrapped up. One guy's a minus 2,000, 3,000 favorite here. And as long as he doesn't fall apart on the field or, their team doesn't, get embarrassed, they're going to carry it away. But if we look right now in the FanDuel Sportsbook, the odds here, Bryce Young, Alabama's quarterback, is a minus 220. CJ Stroud not playing today, plus 450. Aiden Hutchinson here, the defensive end from Michigan, sits at 16-1. Matt Corral, 20-1. Kenny Pickett, 20-1. Kenneth Walker, 25-1. Now, for me, I love this because you take a look here at Bryce Young, Chris. If he win, I don't care if they win 3-2 today against Georgia. He's going to be the Heisman winner because, hey, he's an SEC champion. He had a decent year. He's got the statistics, and he's the favorite coming in. But to me, if he loses today, I don't care if he plays well and they lose. I don't think he could be the Heisman Trophy winner, which leaves C.J. Stroud, which you say, well, hold on. This team had 2 losses. They didn't even make the Big Ten championship game. You slide it down to Aiden Hutchinson, 16-1 here. Let's just say, Chris, he goes out today and plays Iowa, and he has 3 sacks, a forced fumble. They dominate, and they shut out, let's just say, Iowa in this game. That would give him a bump. Corral's not playing today, but the one that I think is so interesting is Kenny Pickett plays Wake Forest today. You can see this game 50-49 as a final, 475, 5 touchdown passes for Kenny Pickett. Give me your thoughts here, Chris, on this market as we enter into the final day of football today.
I think the market is insane. If the Heisman vote goes this way, it will show you that the media people do not watch all the games. They just don't. The people that vote on these don't watch the games. They just look at the brands. Because if you've watched CJ Stroud, when playing a decent, when he plays Maryland, he looks amazing, of course, because Maryland is trash. But when he plays good defenses, I'm not talking about great defenses, good defenses, he has struggled with one of the greatest collection of wide receivers we've ever seen in college football. Same thing can be said for Bryce Young. 2 weeks ago, I said when Michigan beat CJ Stroud, or last week, sorry, when Michigan beat CJ Stroud and Bryce Young struggled against Auburn the way he did, I said any voter that votes for these guys should immediately be thrown into the nearest body of water around them and have their vote pulled from them, because you're just voting for a brand. You haven't watched these guys, and you haven't watched the other guys behind them. I think that I've watched all of these players, all of these games. The clear best player in the country, and it's not close, is Matthew Corral, 45 minutes down the road from my house. I understand that. But listen, this guy has carried Ole Miss. You know what Ole Miss would be if Matt Corral wasn't on that team right now? They would barely be a 500 team. They would struggle to get to 5 wins. All right. That guy has done more with less talent than anybody on this list. And he has absolutely put a Herculean effort into what Ole Miss has done. He's been unbelievable. He can run the ball on the games when he throws the ball. Amazing. Games where his receivers just can't get open because they're not elite. This is not the old A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf offense.
Yeah.
They don't have NFL weapons as skill players. He becomes the runner. He becomes the skill player that they need him to be. It's clear and obvious to people who have watched the games. And there's a defensive end that is ahead of him in the bettings.
I love it.
Yes.
That's absolutely insane. And you're right. If I had to bet money on any of these guys today, the money is on Kenny Pickett. The price you're getting at plus 2,000 is unbelievable. And I completely agree with you. That's the storyline. He has a chance to go out and play a Herculean game, a monumental game against Wake Forest, where he should be able to put up 700 yards, 1,000 yards of all, just unbelievable numbers today. Really blow people's hair back. The sad thing about this, it is supposed to be a regular season award, and so many voters have already turned in their vote.
Right.
And
which is ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous.
Think that's sad. I think that's a cop-out.
Yeah, it really is. Now, also, when you take a look at this whole list here, because we always joke about, and this goes back a long way, where if you remember, Chris, the AP voting, goes in, or not the AP voting, the coaches poll. How many times we heard of, the head coach giving it to a grad assistant? I just throw his card out when we get it back. And that's how you voted for the national championship. How would you expect college football coaches who have so much to worry about their own team and the next opponent, worry about, let's just say, the Washington Huskies out on the West Coast, who they never get a chance to play? Which brings up to my next opinion here. We're going all the way down the list, and even the voters get caught up in the same thing. The big game last week, right? Ohio State, Michigan. Who was on camera more than anybody else in that game? I feel like it was Aiden Hutchinson. So those, this guy's really good. I might have to vote for this guy now.
They watched one game.
Exactly.
They watched two. They watched the Michigan State game too.
The defensive end is not winning it, period. End of story. It's not going to happen. One of those guys was like, wait, we're going to vote for a Michigan defensive end over the Alabama quarterback? Absolutely not going to happen no matter what. The defensive end today, he could go out, get 44 sacks, throw a touchdown pass, kick a field goal, kick a 65-yard coffin corner punt.
Well, then I'd give it to him.
He's not winning the Heisman. He's a defensive end. They won't do it. No way, shape, or form will they do it.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
And he's going to have a game today. He's going to have.
He is probably going to have a game too,
because Iowa's offense is literally in the Stone Ages.
It is 42 and a half. We're going to get to that in just a few moments. The one outlier, which I do think is interesting, like I always talk about, Kyle, and you know this from the baseball show. If you're doing something historic, sometimes you have to get the nod over everybody else. Shohei Ohtani I don't care how bad the baseball team was. He was dominant on the mound and as a hitter. I don't care what Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hit 75 home runs. That's not going to overtake it. So I look at Desmond Ridder, 100-1. He is on the cusp of putting his team in the college football playoff. Now, also keep in mind, I believe it's December 6th is the final date to get that in. So you actually can watch these games, then watch the playoff show tomorrow, and then vote on Monday to get that in. Oh, yeah, Desmond Ridder comes out today, 5 touchdown passes. Now, wait. Cincinnati finished unbeaten this year and is the first Power 5 to get into the college football playoff, and he sits at 100-1. It'll be fascinating to watch that play out. But, gentlemen, why don't we get into the games today and start to have some fun? Let's kick it off right at noon. Baylor, Oklahoma State, if we take a look at the lines, opened up in that 4.5, 5 range, but we're now seeing line movement here throughout the day, yesterday, and also this morning. 6.5s across the board with a 45.5. Reason being here for Baylor, if you're heading in this game with Bohannon at quarterback, I think that changes a lot. Looks like he's going to try to give it a go. They don't know if he's going to play yet, and this game comes up less than 2 hours right now. Chris, I'll start with you first here. First question I have in this game, 1, can Baylor win? But number 2, can Baylor win this game without Bohannon at quarterback?
That's going to be tough. He's been so much of their offense.
Yes.
The only caveat that we've got in this game is we don't know what the backup's really capable of doing. We have seen so many times that these backups come in these games and they're just fine, or they're better than the guy that was starting, and for some reason they just didn't get the nod. There's a world where Baylor's offense gets massively stepped back. Man, there's another world where this kid brings something else to the table. I'm not going to pretend to know what the backup at Baylor was recruited like or what kind of style of offense he runs. If Bohannon plays, I think Bohannon's good enough. He's not the all-world guy. They spread the ball around a lot. Where I like Baylor in this game, I like Baylor plus the points, is you give Dave Aranda a second shot at playing you. I think Oklahoma State is going to have a hard time scoring today. I think their offense is going to take a big step back. This ain't Oklahoma that you got to play last week that plays no defense. That's Swiss cheese, and this is a brick wall. You're running through something different. And I would take the points. I don't know if Baylor's got enough offensively to win the game, because Oklahoma State's going to bring a bunch to that as well. But I like them catching the points. 45.5 total. I think I would go under that. I think both these defensive-minded guys, the DC for Oklahoma State, head coach for Baylor, I think you get to play them a second time, they're going to figure things out of how to stop these offenses.
You know what's crazy about this, Kyle? You take a look at this game, right? And it opened up at FanDuel at 48.5, now sits at 45.5. Last night's game had a number of 51 in the first half after the first drive with Western Kentucky and UTSA. First half. This game is a full game. Yeah, it's amazing. 45.5 now. And this is the Big 12. The Big 12 is the poster child, Kyle, for playing zero defense. And here we are with 2 defensive teams in the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah, you kind of have to lean the under, right? And you talked about it. So what are we getting out of Bohannon for Baylor, right? So, and you're right. The kid could come out. We have no idea who the hell he is. And he's, it's Tom Brady replacing Drew Bledsoe, and what the hell is going on here. But, conventional wisdom would be, okay, we have a hurt guy who we may not get 100%. And he may try to grind it out. So he's not going to be everything that he's supposed to be. If the backup comes in and he stinks, a lot of indicators would make you lean the under here. These are 2 good defensive teams. It does make me nervous taking a team like Oklahoma State by, they got to win by a touchdown. It's a defensive team. This isn't a great offensive team. I was a little bit nervous about how easily Oklahoma moved the ball last week too, giving up 33 points to Oklahoma. That makes me a little bit nervous as well. I think I would lean Baylor on the points if I'm picking a side, but I don't know enough about that backup quarterback, like Chris said, to really be comfortable taking a side here. So for me, the play on this game, as you both alluded to, is the under. I just don't see Oklahoma State doesn't need. I mean, they probably want to blow them out. They want to figure out a way to jump Cincinnati. So that is important to keep in mind on maybe a team total for Oklahoma State here if they want to run it up at the end, if they have that opportunity. But this Baylor defense is good. I lean the under here, and I think it's a closer, grinded out type of game. I don't see either team winning by more than a touchdown.
Yeah, take a look last week or the week versus Texas Tech with Baylor. Shapen came in. They let him throw 34 times, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. But again, that is Texas Tech. Certainly going to take a step up today. But it's interesting here because when you take a look at Bohannon, more of that running quarterback as opposed to an elite thrower here. Maybe that changes with Shapen a quarterback, which might open up the game a little bit. Sounds crazy. Like, hey, they might have a better chance to score. Well, if the kid can bring a little bit more to the table in the passing game, that might do some damage here. So interesting doings here right at 12 o'clock. That game's going to kick off in about an hour and 45 minutes. How about this one? 4 p.m. today, Houston and Cincinnati. Rotation number 313, 314. Opened up at 11.5 as a favorite towards Cincinnati. Now sits at 10.5. Keep in mind, we talk about a lot of these football games today. They're neutral sites. This one is not a neutral site. It is in Cincinnati at Nippert Stadium. That's going to give an advantage, obviously, to Houston here. Now, this is the one thing that I'm not understanding here, Chris. 56.5 is an opening number on a total. Now sits at 52.5. I think both of these offenses can move the football, but also at the same time, if you're looking from a Cincinnati perspective over the past month, month, right? They had to run the score up, or at least try to run the score up. And so many times in the last 2 weeks, it wasn't like they were scoring 50 points, but they were scoring touchdowns under 2 minutes to go in a game when the game was already out of control, already, decided basically. All you need is a win in this game. Talk to me about this game as a 10.5-point favorite here to Cincinnati, and also maybe a total shot here looking at the 52.5.
So this game scares me. I like Cincinnati. I've liked Cincinnati all year, but I'm going to tell you what. Houston has been rolling. Houston's defensive front has been much better. I like Desmond Ridder. He was my Heisman favorite before the season started. One of my 3 bets that I made before the season started, and I think he's really good. He has struggled when being pressured as well, which all these young quarterbacks do. Yeah. But Houston's not known for their defense. Dana Holgorsen, absolutely not a defensive guy, but he's got a defensive front that will get after you, and they have gotten much better over the years going on. I'm also going to tell you this. Dana's one of those guys where he's a little bit insane. He's got a little bit of mad scientist to him. It wouldn't surprise me if he comes out with some offensive schemes that Luke Fickell and the boys are just not prepared for. I could see him having a couple of rabbits left in his hat, wanting to ruin this party. I think this is a lot of points. I know Cincinnati needs to make a statement. Dana Holgorsen's not the coach that I want to go up against if I need to make a statement. I think I would take the points. It's a little scary, though, because you said it. Cincinnati has to keep running the score up. They have to keep going. If they have the opportunity, they're going to beat them by 20. Can they? And so I would go that route. I don't have a feeling on this total because if Cincinnati gets this game in the mud and they slow this Houston offense down, I think they're going to feel good if they get to 25 and just say, we're just going to beat the hell out of them physically and slow this game to a halt.
Kyle, we take a look at this game between Houston and Cincinnati. As I said, again, it is in Cincinnati, so home field advantage here. It's kind of crazy, too, because you take a look at these two teams. Let's just say if they played, I don't know, in Charlotte as a neutral site, you'd probably have 20,000 people there tops, but you're going to have a rocking home crowd advantage here. And also keep in mind, Houston, warmer weather. Cincinnati, not so warm weather. What's your thoughts on this game for the championship between Houston and Cincinnati in the AAC today?
I mean, it's a huge game for Cincinnati, right? So you wonder, is there a little bit of lemon booty here? Are they going to be able to handle the moment, right? This is a huge game. No one expected them to be here. They're trying to fight to be the first, smaller school to make that playoff. They're in position right here. Houston's defense is not a joke. I mean, we're talking about a defense here that allows less than 200 yards a game passing to their opponents, less than 100 yards rushing. You don't see that very often in college football. College football is a running game, right? I mean, everybody runs for 200 yards a game in college football. Houston's giving up less than 100 yards a game to their opponents. So, I mean, you look at if you just, we're just number watching, look at the last 5 games. Houston, 44, 54, 37, 31, and 45. You look at Cincinnati, 35, 48, 45, 31, 28. This screams over. But will that offense be as high octane as they can be? They're going to be nervous. There's going to be a lot going on. They have a lot to play for here. I sort of lean the under. I don't know if I can take Cincinnati by double digits. I don't know if I'm there yet. Now, I know they were impressive against their last, real big game against Notre Dame. I think it was 24-15. Real tough. I think this is another one where I lean the under. Cincinnati's defense, top 10 in the country. Houston's defense, underrated. I'm not sure we see as many points as you might think here. I think I'm going to lean the under. I agree with that line movement. I'll take the under 52.5.
All right, I'll look the opposite to you. Battle you here in this one. I go over 52, but I do like Houston with the points here just because the simple fact is you don't need style points anymore, I don't believe, out of Cincinnati. If they win, they're in. Let's get to the SEC title game, 4 o'clock here in Atlanta, 3:17, 3:18. Georgia and Alabama. Line opened up at 4, now sits at 6.5. And I always like to say this as well because you take a look at last week, and Chris, we'll start with you first in this game. We're oddsmen, right? We like to look at lines the way they shift here. Let me tell you something. This line sits at 6.5 today, right? Thank goodness Alabama won last week, because if Alabama gets beat, let's just say 10-0, is this line not 10.5, 11, or 12 points or even higher here? So I don't even want to sugarcoat it here. I've said it all week long. I'm taking a look. If Robinson doesn't play or isn't healthy here, I don't know how Alabama moves the football. They struggled mightily last week against a challenged Auburn team. Now you're getting, again, as I talk about it, Chris, a historically good defense. This is finally where Georgia rolls into an SEC championship game, and it's not their fan base praying like, oh, I hope we beat Alabama. They're actually showing up to the stadium, Mercedes-Benz Stadium today going, we're the better football team. We're going to handle business. What do you think about the SEC championship game today, Chris?
So I said it earlier, Alabama is the brand. They are the brand of the SEC, and they get the protection, and they get all of the benefits of all of the doubts. When I saw that they were a touchdown dog. I don't know. I mean, it might have been 25 years since they've been a touchdown underdog to anybody.
Yeah.
And my first thought was there is no way this team is losing by a touchdown. I think they're going to lose by at least 2 touchdowns. I think Georgia is substantially better than them at everything they do. We talked about earlier, Alabama, when they get pressured, when Bryce Young, this Heisman frontrunner, gets pressured, he turns into a shoebox. He just gets scared. He throws the ball away. He can't hit receivers. It takes time for these receivers to get open. Time is not going to be a luxury that he's going to be afforded today. It's going to get ugly. I think it gets ugly fast. I think I do think Alabama's defense could slow Georgia down a touch, but they're going to be on the field so much and so long that it's not going to matter. By the end of this game, Georgia's going to be able to do what they've done all year long, get out big, and just stretch this thing out. I think the word I used all week was I think Alabama's going to get dragged this week. I think they're going to just get drugged from end zone to end zone, and I don't think there's anything they're going to be able to do about it. This is the first time their offensive line has been overmatched in 4 or 5 games this year, and they've overcome most of them. They're not going to overcome this one. The offensive line is going to show flaws that we've never seen before. I don't care if Robinson plays. It doesn't matter.
When Alabama's on top of the mountain, they're always showing the sidelines and Saban's in full control. This is going to be so interesting where things go haywire right away, Kyle, and all those sideline shots to Nick Saban busting up his headset, furious, screaming at assistant coaches because nothing is working. It could happen. Your thoughts here on the SEC title game?
I mean, that's all I want in this world. That's all I want today. Today will be a good day if Alabama gets their ass kicked. That's all I want. But I am nervous. I always get a little nervous because we've seen this with Georgia where they're really, really good and then they get smoked. But listen, you're not scoring any points on that Auburn defense for 3 quarters, and now I'm expecting you to come in and score points against the Georgia defense that's allowed 9 touchdowns in 12 games.
Woo!
I think so. I like the under 49. I don't know if we get that running mate we like to talk about in this game. Georgia or nothing for me, and I like the under 49. I just don't think Alabama puts up enough points to get you to that over. I don't think we have that running mate in this game.
This is a great day, man. It really is. How about 8 o'clock at night here? 71.5 as a total. We're talking Wake Forest and Pittsburgh. Line sitting at -3.5 as a favorite towards Pittsburgh. And this one, the ACC championship game. Decent weather expected there in Charlotte tonight. And I don't know who's stopping anybody. I mean, Sam Hartman at Wake Forest offense has been sensational in the ACC all year long. Pittsburgh and Kenny Pickett, so much fun to watch here. Chris, coming to you. It's one of those where you try to handicap things, but it's almost like the kid in me that says, I just want to place an over wager and sit back and watch this one.
Well, that's the answer, by the way. That is the answer. That is the wager. I've said this all year on our shows that we've done is Wake Forest is scoring 50. If you want to beat them, you better hang 50. All right. They're breaking 100 in this game. The bookmakers do not have the stones to give you a triple-digit total, but we're going to get there. They just don't. They won't ever do it. So just keep riding the over in all of these games. If you look back, they've busted 70 and I think all but like 2 or 3. And I just think they're going to bust it again today. I like Wake Forest in this game. I think Kenny Pickett's an amazing story, and what he's done is unbelievable, what this Pitt team has done. But this Pitt team hadn't stopped many people at all. The only teams that they play defense against are offensively inept. That's anything but Wake. I don't know that Wake wins it, but it's over a field goal. I think this is going to be a back-and-forth ping-pong ball of a football game. And I get a head start over a field goal. I'm taking the head start over the field goal because I think it's a coin flip game. I love the over.
Kyle, we look at team totals routinely during the week, and when you get to this game, it's like the dream matchup here. 71.5 -3.5. Quick thoughts here on the ACC championship game.
I mean, 2 teams that score over 42 points a game. This is the one that's going to be a lot of fun. Now that the kid in me, the fan of me is like, wait, ACC championship game, no Miami, no Clemson, no Florida State. I don't give a damn.
What happened?
Wake Forest and Pittsburgh. I haven't watched a Wake Forest game since Tim Duncan played for him.
That's good. You're going to enjoy it today.
You missed out. You
did.
But today we're getting it done. We're going to watch this one. Yeah, it's the over or nothing. I will say this: Pitt, much more effective defensively, stopping the run. I like to trust teams that can stop the run. Wake Forest giving up over 209 yards rushing a game. It's always hard for me to back teams that can't stop the run. So a slight lean to Pitt here, but I'm hoping for a lot of points, and I'm taking the over just for the fun of the whole damn thing. And look, you're right. You could see triple digits in this game, especially if they find their way into overtime. what, 58, 51, 58, 52 is out of the question? I don't think so. Take the over here.
Big Ten championship game. If you're hoping for points like we are in the Wake Forest-Pittsburgh game, you're certainly praying for points in this game here as we list a 43.5 and a favorite that's gone from 10.5 at the FanDuel Sportsbook up to 12.5 now at the FanDuel Sportsbook in favor of Michigan. Michigan knows if they win, they are in. We've seen some crazy numbers come out of these night games in the Big Ten where some teams beating high-ranked teams by 50 points to get themselves into championship games. That's not going to be the case in this one. So we're going to take a look at this one, breaking it down side by side here. To me, Michigan is the better football team. You don't need any style points, but I've said this for years, and it seems like decades here. When you watch Iowa play football, it seems like they set offensive football back 50 years. And tonight, Chris, I think the same thing is going to happen. It's going to be an ugly game. I do think Michigan wins this game, and I do think they cover. But again, principal play for me. I still have to go over 43.5. I can't go under that much in it, that little amount here.
Oh, boy.
I might go under. This one's a little scary because it's small. I don't see how Iowa scores. I just don't. The only way they score is defensively, which they've done a lot this year. The best player on Iowa's team is their punter. It's just unbelievable to watch and they're going backwards. Their offense didn't start off that bad at the beginning of the season, and they've progressively gotten worse and worse. I just think, and I also think Iowa's defense is going to get some takeaways. McNamara's not above giving the ball up. And I think this game's going to be just stay between the 20s. I do. I don't think there's going to be a lot of red zone, opportunities. You're right. Principle of 43 in college, especially, says you just have to go over. This game's going to be in the teens. If you told me the number was 35, I would strongly consider under. I just think it's points are going to. That's why I like Iowa, by the way. And I don't love them. This is not a play that I'm in love with. I just don't know, how do you beat the hell out of somebody when neither team is going to score? If the total is 43, beating somebody by 13, that is a bludgeoning. Now, that could absolutely happen. Michigan, I do think, is the better team. I think Michigan's defense might be the best defense Iowa's played all year. So if Iowa's offenses looked bad, there's a world where they look really, really bad in this game. But I also understand the storyline of Harbaugh knows that we just played the most meaningful game in Michigan history in the last 100 years, beating the hell out of Ohio State. Let's just win this one and get out of it. Don't step on ourselves. Don't screw up. Just get the W and move on.
With that low total, I guess one of the bonuses here is you get it in a dome, so they're not playing in 20-degree weather and snow. We'll see how that plays out. Kyle, your quick thoughts here on the Big Ten championship game, Iowa and Michigan.
I wouldn't bet this game with someone else's
yes,
money.
You will.
I mean, maybe if I'm bored later on today, I don't know, man. How am I supposed to bet on a team that scored 17 points against Northwestern? I can't. It's Michigan or nothing for me here, but everything makes me nervous about this. I don't think this will be a fun watch. I suppose I would lean the under here. I don't see it, obviously, any points out of the Stone Age offense for Iowa. So it is Michigan or nothing, but it makes me nervous as hell. If you can avoid betting this game, avoid betting this game. This is a complete stay away spot or a live betting spot later on in the game. Maybe get a live under or a live over.
Yeah, exactly. You got two games at 8 o'clock tonight. Wake Forest and Pittsburgh. That's going to storm the scoreboard, and this one not. Go ahead, Chris. What do you got?
Well, I was going to say, don't we think it's a shame that this game is being played in a dome in Indianapolis? Shouldn't this be played in Soldier Field?
Yes,
exactly.
It should.
Yes,
this game should be played in Chicago.
Absolutely.
Chicago is the home of the Big Ten. It's the head of the Big Ten, and the Big Ten game should always be played outdoors on grass under a gray sky, right?
Yeah.
1,000%. Because also when you take a look at the college football playoff, once they expand it, you're not going to have all these bowl games you're going to play. The fun would be Alabama going to play Ohio State in 22-degree weather and blustery winds. That's what we're looking forward to. You're right. Big Ten championship games should always be outdoors. But guess what, guys? That was your college football show here for Saturday. On Championship Saturday, we're going to know who the Heisman winner is this week. We're going to know who the college football playoff Final Four is tomorrow by noon. Sensational stuff. Do want to thank the guys out here, Kyle Provine and Chris Giannini, along with myself, Donnie Wrightside, bringing the heat. And we'll see what happens here on College Football Championship Saturday. Thanks for tuning in to Bookmakers Review. If you haven't done so yet, if you're watching this video on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Turn the notification bell on. If you're watching through our Twitter page here, give our Twitter page a like and also a follow. And we'll do it again shortly here. I'm Donnie Wrightside along with Con Provines and Christopher Giannini. We are the college football team here at Bookmakers Review. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, good luck on those wagers.